What's up, guys? Benny. Imagine your country is at war, and whatever you think of the war in Ukraine, it is really bad. A lot of people have died. Terrible things have happened. You flee your country to go to the safest, best, greatest country on earth. And after your hourly pizza job, because you're a refugee and you're just making a new life here, you get on the train to go back to your studio apartment. You're scrolling through, swiping through Instagram or X. Little do you know that the reason we're not the greatest country on earth is sitting right behind you. And what exactly would that be? That's something called restorative justice, where in this nation, we decide to take the 1%, let's just say round numbers, 1% of career criminals, people who have offended 3 or more times, people with mugshots line up as long as my arm. And because of woke judicial policies or just overt racism, right? The judges not wanting too many black men in prison, they just release them back onto the street. You just go back onto the street to go murder. And little did this war refugee know that she was actually in more danger riding a bus in America than on the front lines of Ukraine. As the murderer just wanders around, dripping blood everywhere, carrying a knife through the train. Nobody does anything. It is the darkest of black pills, man. Watching this clip, it is radicalizing for people. And it all could have been prevented. The media doesn't want you to see this video. That's why they're trying to stop it from circulating. You can see here, Axios has found the true evil in this most horrific crime. The true evil of this vicious murder of Iryna Zarutska, the Ukrainian war refugee, is us, you and me, for noticing. We noticed, and that means we're drawing attention to it. Trump-friendly social media. Also, the increased amount of security cameras in public spaces, making videos just too easy to share. Insane. Yeah, they found the real enemy. Not the woke activist judges. As I said in this morning's stream, and I got to be really careful when I talk about this because, obviously the guy deserves to go to trial, be found guilty, and get the death penalty, right? That this would be a just result. But a guy with this many arrests is screaming at the judicial system, do not let me out. This guy, DeCarlos Brown Jr., is screaming from the rafters, I will commit an offense again. Do not let me out of prison. I am going to do something horrible. That is what's being communicated here. On like almost basic animalistic level, it's honesty. He is screaming out his nature. I will commit offenses again. DeCarlos Brown Jr. says again and again and again and again after arrest. It is the judges, like right here, this is a judge in the Carolinas that continue to release him. Teresa Stokes, she's a judge who let career criminal DeCarlos Brown Jr. walk free to slaughter Iryna Zarutska. Judges like Stokes have inverted justice, treating dangerous criminals as victims while the innocent suffer. Rogue judges who recklessly endanger the lives catering to career criminals must face harsh consequences. She just failed the system. She enabled a killer. Thankfully, we are living in a timeline where we have a president that is in favor of these harsh consequences. You'd be able to get rid of probably 90% of the crime if you just locked up 1% of the population. President Trump started last night by talking about what happened in
where was the subway? Was where?
She was in Charlotte on a light train. She was stabbed multiple times by a...
Horrible. No, I haven't heard. Okay. When did this happen?
It happened in August, but the video just came out.
I see. Yeah, I see the video. I'll know all about it by tomorrow morning. Okay? Thank you.
Know all about it by tomorrow morning, says Donald Trump, who was briefed, no doubt, by Stephen Miller, who had this to say on X. The Democrat Party at every level, judges, politicians, academics, and nonprofits organized around the defense and protection of the criminal, the monstrous, and the depraved. The more vile the threat, the more vociferously the Democrat Party works to defend it. This is kryptonite for the Democrat Party. This entire story is kryptonite. I mean, it sounds like really macabre, but the perpetrator didn't use a firearm, didn't use guns. They can't claim that. Used like a pocket knife. And the victim was a Ukrainian war refugee. The perpetrator was out of prison, even though he belonged behind bars, because of woke activist, smooth-brained judges following through on woke activist policies that Democrats, like no cash bail, champion. They have no leg to stand on here. President Trump on Iryna Zarutska. I give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed in Charlotte by a madman.
Truly, there are evil people. We're all people of religion, but there are evil people, and we have to confront that. I just give my love and hope to the family of the young woman who was stabbed this morning or last night in Charlotte by a madman, a lunatic. Just got up and started. It's right on the tape. Not really watchable because it's so horrible, but just viciously stabbed. She's just sitting there. So they're evil people. We have to be able to handle that. If we don't handle that, we don't have a country.
If we don't handle it,
I created the first.
If this chaos continues, we don't have a country, says President Trump. You're exactly right. It is the inversion. It is every bit of an evil, every bit as evil of an inversion that the left constantly does. They're inverting light to darkness. They're inverting day to night, male to female. Like it's all an inversion of God's design. And they make the criminal and the evil person good. They're the victim. That is also a perverse inversion that President Trump talks so forcefully about. It is a wonderful thing to see.
The Trump administration will have no tolerance for terrorism or political violence, and that includes hate crimes against Christians, Jews, or anybody else. We're not going to allow it. And there was also a horrible killing recently in Charlotte, where I talked about, and so many others, and we're going to get to the end of it. And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. And the actions that we take are nothing. This cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and killing again. Cashless bail. And you try and reason with people like in Chicago with the governor and the mayor. You try and reason with them, and it's like you're talking to a wall. It just doesn't. I assume it's just a political ideology. They're not stupid people. It must be an ideology that's just buried in their head, and you can't do a damn thing about it. And we'd love to go into Chicago and straighten it out. You know, Washington, D.C., you'll be happy to know, is a free and safe zone. It's so safe right now.
Do not let them kill again. We had a Harmeet Dillon who was on the program this morning talking about this. Here's the rapid response 47, talking about madman, a lunatic. She's just sitting there. They're evil people, and we have to handle that. You know, it's not pretty when you have to handle it. To fight evil, you got to be meaner than evil, right? Right? Sometimes it gets ugly, and that's why weak men don't have the will to do it. President Trump has the will to do it. So does his team. We asked Harmeet Dillon about what she's planning on doing in Charlotte, and she didn't disappoint. She said they're under full investigation, and there are going to be some pretty severe penalties for cities like that refuse to process and prosecute crime. Ladies and gentlemen, Harmeet Dillon from this morning's show will stay on this. Iryna's law. That would be interesting. I'm not a lawyer, Harmeet, so I just wouldn't even know how to approach this. But I think everybody sees what the real problem is here, which is that repeat violent criminal offenders that scream at judges that I don't belong in civilized society. I will murder and kill and maim and harm and offend again, continue to be put on the street. The floor is yours.
Well, look, it's very tragic what happened in this jurisdiction. It's the kind of thing that you're seeing happening all over the United States. And From the federal civil rights perspective, my angle is whether there is discrimination occurring by local law enforcement in how they treat offenders. And so, for example, in Hennepin County, Minnesota, we're investigating their blatant policy, which says that they will give preferential plea agreements to people of color. Now, that's illegal under the law. I don't know whether Charlotte has a similar problem. It may be the case, and we'd love for people with evidence to come forward, whistleblowers to come forward. If they are treating offenders of a particular race more leniently than, say, white offenders, that would be a federal civil rights violation. But we need that evidence before we can take action at the DOJ. To the broader point of whether the federal government can impose sort of sentencing strictures on state court judges, typically speaking, in our federalism and 10th Amendment analysis division of power, most of the police power in the United States, and that means all the government power really, lies with the states and with localities. What the federal government can do, however, is tie federal grants and federal law enforcement support, which is significant, to basic minimum standards of performance. And so I think that's something that certainly could be looked at by policymakers. And so, you do have to look from a federalism perspective as to whether a federal law governing criminal conduct is consistent with those 10th Amendment concerns.
The video is absolutely chilling, Harmeet, and it's tough to watch, and you don't even see the full thing. I find that fascinating that we can't see the full video as well, because of course you were able to watch in 4K everything that happened with George Floyd because they wanted a specific result. But nonetheless, even the video that we have is atrocious. And what it looks is premeditation. It looks to be something that was clearly targeted and racial targeting. And my question to you is this currently under investigation by your department?
Well, look, first of all, I do see a video of a violent crime occurring, but to draw the conclusion that it was racially targeted, you'd want to see what his prior victims look like. In fact, we see in our urban crime-ridden hellholes a lot of black-on-black violence as well. Yeah. And so I would want to know that evidence before I reached any conclusions. And so we're certainly looking at this fact pattern. One thing that drew my attention regarding the mayor's comments regarding the situation is her reference to thanking media partners for suppressing this video. And that leads to a question. We've seen other instances of this, of mainstream media coordination, whether this is an instance or this nationally is an instance in which mainstream media partners of these left-wing cities are coordinating to suppress significant crime like this from being reported where there may be a racial angle to it. That might be an antitrust issue. It might be other issues as well. But I think that's something that we should all be asking. Why are we not seeing this disturbing incident and footage on all of the news shows at night when we saw the same with respect to George Floyd? So I think that's a real serious question, and other people in this department may want to look at that.
Or Daniel Penny, which of course has been something that has been a championing issue, where a young man who's a Marine stepped in to prevent something like this from happening. The Daniel Penny case, which we covered very closely, was a man who was threatening the riders of the subway and saying he's going to effing kill them. This is the quote. It's caught on video. He's threatening to do exactly what happened here. And Daniel Penny stepped in to save lives, yet he was attacked for it and was very close to losing his life, meaning being incarcerated for a long time. Thank God he wasn't.
Well, this brings us back here to the DOJ's impetus under the president's executive orders, which is to eliminate DEI in all of its forms. Any type of race-based prosecution or persecution of citizens is unacceptable. And to me, it doesn't matter to me the race of the victim. All victims, all people in our country who are the victims of violent crime deserve justice. And when you see prosecutors either putting their thumb on the scale or taking their thumb off the scale, depending on the race of the perpetrator, that's illegal under our federal civil rights laws, and we will put an end to it wherever we have the evidence.